All right, good morning. Thank you all for joining. This is the Talent EVV Thriving Workforce virtual session. We're going to be focused on education today. Again, thank you all for joining. We should have a few more trickle in, but want to get you out of here on time this morning. So just appreciate your engagement. This is actually the third of 5 virtual sessions that we're hosting, really to help our region, stakeholders, and folks that are engaging in regional transformation really understand what is it that's happening across the 4 focus areas of Talent EVV. So those areas being population growth, thriving workforce, upward mobility, and live well. And this plan is really a product of our regional development plan to help us understand how we transform and continue to advance the Evansville region to create great quality of life, great quality of place, and lift up the current and future residents of the Evansville region. So the counties that we're looking at whenever we talk about some of the day-to-day before we tee up some strategies and tactics are really the donut counties and then Vandenberg here in the Evansville region. So Vandenberg County, Warwick, Posey, Gibson, and Henderson. And that truly represents our MSA plus Gibson. It represents the labor shed and where folks are working, where folks are living, where they're playing, and all of those great things as we look at just how interconnected our region is, both through the economy, through education, through our health systems, and across the board. So I think we've got a really exciting day today. I think we're going to have a really great discussion, have some fantastic content experts here with us to really walk us through what's happening in the education space as it relates to the Evansville region. So we're going to hear some of the tactical things. We're also going to hear about some of the best practices that we know are moving the needle as it relates to education and how folks are innovating in that space. So I think, again, great content experts here with us today. I will ask that our speakers introduce yourselves, so I'll kick it off. I think, Jill, you're online with us. Do you want to introduce yourself and share who you are and who you're representing this morning?
Yes, absolutely. My name is Dr. Jill Razor. I'm an associate professor of education at the University of Southern Indiana. Thank you for having me today.
Thank you, Jill. Appreciate you logging on. Alicia, you wanna introduce yourself next?
Yes, I'm Alicia Sheridan, the CEO for Building Blocks. We focus on early childhood, beginning of the pipeline.
Thank you, Alicia. And I think we've got John online. John, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi, my name is John Benton. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at Dream Center Evansville. We work in primarily the Jacobsville neighborhood, but I'm really excited about the work that's happening in the region.
Wonderful. Thank you, John. And BJ?
BJ Watts. I work for the Evansville Vandenberg School Corporation and also serve on the Indiana State Board of Education.
Wonderful. Thank you, BJ. And I think we've got Christy online. Christy, you wanna introduce yourself?
Yes, hi, I'm Christy Burns. I'm the director for the Center for Adult Learner Success at USI.
Wonderful. Thank you, Christy. And then I believe we've got Chancellor Vidal online. So Daniela, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure. Good morning. Hello, and apologize. I'm driving to Indy, so I'll be on the road as we do this. But Daniela Vidal, Chancellor of Ivy Tech Evansville campus.
Thank you, Daniela. Appreciate that. And of course, last but not least, we'll let Marcia, you want to introduce yourself as well.
Good morning, Marcia Forston with Junior Achievement of Southwestern Indiana and also a member of the core team of Talent EVV.
Wonderful, thank you. And I guess for those of you that don't know me, I'm Tyler Stock. I'm the Executive Director of Talent EVV here at the Evansville Regional Economic Partnership. So again, excited to be with you all this morning. I'm going to go ahead and actually turn it over to Marcia. She's going to lead our discussion today and kind of tee up the conversation through an understanding of what the data is telling us around educational attainment. But I guess before I do that, just want to really ground this group in understanding that what you're going to see today is really a function of kind of the whole continuum of education. So pre-K all the way through career and beyond. So really want to help you all understand that continuum, how handoffs are happening, and why bringing these content experts together in this continuum format is really an important thing to kind of tee up how our educational attainment system is really growing and fostering across the Evansville region. So I'll turn it over to Marcia and let you kind of walk us through our slides.
Okie doke. Thank you so much. You want to go? There we go. Yeah, so just to get us up to that 30,000 foot level about why this is so important. What is the why of education? Well, it is truly the great equalizer. As we think about the other areas of focus that we have that are building this plan to grow and sustain our region, just think of the impact that education has. We all know that education, good education can reverse the cycle of poverty. Absolutely reverse the cycle of poverty. In fact, in the state of Indiana, 68% of Hoosier dropouts are unemployed. Let that sink in. 68% of Hoosier dropouts are unemployed. That means they don't have the sense of purpose and the belief in themselves and the standard of living that you all enjoy. And of course, families want to come where a good education system is here, where their family can thrive. Young professionals believe that as well. And then our employers always seeking employment. Think of this statistic: 10,000 baby boomers are retiring every single day. That's a lot of jobs to fill. And then last but not least, really the quality of life. Data shows that the higher the educational attainment, the healthier we are as individuals. So this work is really important. And when we took a step back to say, what are our foundational principles as we approach this work? 3 things came to mind. One is that our employers know best the skills and competencies needed for success. Second, that our degrees and our credentials are skills and competency based. No more does it matter so much what your degree is. We want to know, what are your skills and competencies? And the third, which is a foundational best practice, is that our industry partners are embedded in that high school continuum, pre-K 16 plus, as Tyler said, cradle through career. And you're going to see today some really great examples of that work. Let's go on to the next slide. So when we were setting our objectives and our goals that meet the objective of having a highly trained workforce that is both globally competitive and relevant, we identified 2 key areas of focus. And one of those is improving the high school graduation rate to 90%. As I said, 60% of Hoosier dropouts are unemployed. That is a big hurdle for those folks to overcome, and we want to prevent that by increasing that graduation rate. The second is that our population, and 60% of them have some sort of post-secondary attainment. What we know today is, as opposed to 50 years ago, we know that only 10% of the jobs are unskilled. That means post-secondary credentialing is extremely important. And you'll see some good news that's actually happening in our high schools to prepare students for that. So it's important that this work be foundationally grounded in data. So as you've learned on a previous workshops that we've had with population growth and Live Well, we sought to find out who are those cities across the country that are like us, our peer cities, and which are those cities that we aspire to be. So we've identified several of those that you can see here, and we are now benchmarking ourselves against these cities to track our progress against these objectives. So clearly graduation rate is one of those that we are tracking. And then we go to post-secondary, we're getting even a little bit more granular. So we're tracking bachelor's degree. Why is that important? Those 4-year degrees are an important component to the mix of our flourishing businesses in this community. And then we are also taking a look at minority population that has a bachelor's degree as well. So very important to track that progress as we go through and implement all of these strategies. Then going a little bit deeper, we're also tracking associate degrees. We all know there is more than one pathway to success. absolutely more than one pathway to success. And it includes post-secondary credentialing. So think of the trades, think of associate's degrees, think of 2+2. All of these are strategies to help to prepare our workforce as they enter the workforce, as well as they continue to evolve and redefine themselves through their career as an employee. And then last but not least, there is no substitute for leveling the playing field for students as they enter school. And we're going to hear some great work around early childhood education here in a few minutes. In our region, and as Tyler said, these are 5 counties that we are tracking: Warwick, Posey, Vanderburgh, Gibson, and Henderson. There are about 60,000 high school students in our region. And some of the great work that's going on to prepare kids with post-secondary credentialing, it's happening actually at the high school level. And you're going to hear a little bit more of this as we hear from BJ and Daniela in particular. But these are credentials in our 2 largest sectors, which are health and life sciences and manufacturing, as well as the trades. So you're going to see some really great work that's happening there, but we have the potential to change the lives of 60,000 high school students across our region. Additionally, we have almost 40,000 students that are enrolled in post-secondary. And what you can see is, this is pretty unique, folks. We have seven, count them, 7 higher ed institutions in this 5-county region. That's pretty incredible. And we have robust work that's going on in the trades. So you see the Southern Indiana Building Trades Council there that represents nearly all of the trades in this region. And so tremendous opportunity to continue that work with high school students as they graduate and into post-secondary work, and for workers who are reinventing themselves and employers who are wanting to skill up their teams, opportunities at these institutions to do that. And one thing I want to share with both of our education institutions, this is a shared regional education strategy. So think about that. All of the institutions that we shared with you, 9 school corporations, 7 higher eds in the building trades, shared regional education strategy. I can tell you that they are working earnestly and enthusiastically to collaborate across sectors to help develop this pre-K 16+ or cradle through career continuum that we have to support not only the people in our region, but also the employers in our region. So I believe we're ready for the first, we're ready to kick it off with our first team. And Alicia and Jill, we're going to kick it off with you to talk a little bit about early childhood. So thank you so much for being here.
I'll let
Yes.
Jill begin.
Thank you. Again, I'm Jill Razor from USI. And as I look at the names on the screen, I just want to say thank you. I am inspired by the work all of you are doing. And I truly feel we're all present here because we care. We care about our community. We care about our children. We care about our workforce, and we can make that difference. So in my opinion, I think it always starts with the youngest members in our community. So I wanted to start off with just the basics of what is early childhood education. It's early education and care for children ages 0 through 8. We view development in 4 different domains. So we're looking at a child's physical, social, emotional, and cognitive development. As an early childhood educator, what you're doing is you're intentionally combining our understanding of child development with what is developing and implementing developmentally appropriate activities for each individual child. So we really look at the wholeness of each child at this early stage in life. We know that the early years of a child's life are very important for their later health and development. And one of the main reasons for that is because of how fast their brain grows from birth through that early childhood area. So we know that those first 8 years truly build that foundation for later success. So in early childhood, what's unique about us is we, as a profession, we are truly the bridge that serves from home life to school life. So we recognize that parents are the child's first and most important teacher. So we work with homes, we work with the children, and then we see how we can get them transitioned into a school setting. So our National Association for the Education of Young Children, their core values really stress the importance of our profession engaging in partnerships with families and the community to ensure that all the children have access to high quality experiences, because we know that's what sets the stage for success later in school and in life. So the quality of a child's first experiences in those first few years of life, positive or negative, literally shapes how their brain is developed. We know from the CDC, their research has shown us that chronic stressors in early childhood, they can have a cumulative effect on learning, earnings, and health. However, the good news is the flip side of that, protective factors provided in the child's home or community environment, such as a consistent and responsive caregiver, and other services, of course, they can reduce the impact of those adverse circumstances. So the CDC has found that vocabulary skills by age 3 predict reading in 3rd grade, which in turn predicts high school graduation rates. So all of this, as you can see, is really circular and investing in early childhood and then how it works to the workforce. From birth through age 5, a child's brain develops more than at any other time in their life. That's huge. So what I wanted to do is to talk just a little bit about, I wanted to explain what early childhood was and the importance of these early years and the importance of, again, increasing our workforce. So as we know, there are teacher shortages, we're all living that. So I want to talk about some of the strategies that I thought could, help work on this issue for us as a community. And first and foremost, and just my opinion is, we have to make schools safe again. I think that's near and dear to so many of our hearts, but we have to make schools the safe place for children, for teachers, for everyone. They have always traditionally been known as our safe haven in the community. We need to get back to that. The second thing is we at USI, we're looking at creative pathways. So what do we do with existing people in the workforce? How can we get them to actually view education as a possible and a thriving career? We know that the higher level of education of the teacher equals a higher level of quality of care in the classroom. That's huge. So if we can partner with Ivy Techs, if we can partner with our 2-year institutes and then transition to the 4-year, all those are wonderful steps. We're looking at, alternative pathways of how do we encourage our high school students to consider being a teacher. Hopefully they've all had that one really inspiring teacher in their life and they'll say, I want to be you. How do I do that? So I feel, one of the ways that USI has done that is we created our first annual, this past year, we had a Be a Teacher Day. And we actually brought to campus over 300 high school students that were interested in exploring teaching as a career. And we really worked with our community partners to, of course, I'd love to have them at USI and teach education, but first and foremost, it was to consider being a teacher and to recognize the importance of that career. So in ending, I just really wanted to ask all of us to really encourage and support people who are considering this as their career. So support your teachers, support your schools. And I was going to go into the return on investment, but I know Alicia, my colleague, will definitely work on that. So I've kind of set the stage, and Alicia, if you could take over. Thank you.
Yeah, so we hear cradle to career quite often. We also term it diapers to diplomas. So when we're trying to look at really looking at early learning over babysitting, had a conversation the other day with someone talking about, she was referring to her location as a daycare. And I said, are you at daycare or you want to be early learning? And she said, oh, definitely early learning. And I said, okay, there's a difference. There's a purpose for both. But where do we set and spend our time when we're talking about this pipeline? Marcia mentioned 68%, and that mind-boggling to me. But at the same time, it doesn't happen their senior year. It happens back. Why do we say great by 8? Why do we say we're focusing on all this work up until 8 years of age? At 8 is your 3rd grade year. You learn to read until 3rd grade. At 3rd grade, our curriculums, our mind shifts in our school district switch to reading to learn. So if the gap is there, it's getting even larger at that time. It kind of puts some of that brain development. You hear those statistics all the time. An example of that is that by 1 year of age, a typical child will say their first word. And if you think about the adults in the room who have children or grandchildren, the first word that your child uttered, and it was at 1 year of age, and you're hoping, it's, oh, they said dad, or oh, they said mom, they say dad, that's babbling or deprecated babbling. But anyway, that happens naturally. We don't tell the dads that. We say, yeah, they said, yeah, mine was choo-choo for train, I had symbolism. But by the time that child said the first word, they literally understood up to 1,500 words. So the vocabulary that we talk about and the statistics, everything that we're putting in there is truly impactful within those first 3 years. But how do we, in those protective factors, working with families, how do we empower families to understand that, especially when we have generational poverty in our area? When we break down the data for the 5 counties in this area that we're talking about now, you can see a need for seats. You can see a need for access and affordable childcare. We're working on that. We're working on the systems and the infrastructure for that at a state level. However, a big piece of that is equality when they get there. Are you giving our children in these target populations the resources through the child cares, through the early learning centers that you are those of me? And so when we talk about, will you go back just 1 second? I'm sorry. So when you talk about investing in early childhood and the development resources for the disadvantaged families to provide that equal access. When I'm telling you, I want our child cares in this area, our early learning in this area to be of quality, I'm saying that I want the Ron Romaine grandchildren wanting to go to these same sites. I'm telling you, I want the people of means, of places, of things that we can do the resources for. Just because their parents don't make that amount of money shouldn't mean that their education is any slighter than that. And we, through the pilots that we're working on at Building Blocks, we're working on how do we identify those gaps before their kindergarten year? How do we identify and close those gaps? And you have to do that through data. You can't just go and play. It has to be intentional instruction and instruction based on the data that you're collecting on your children. We have to develop that nurture early development of cognitive and social skills from children birth to 5. We have to sustain that throughout their educational career, which is why we're all here today. Starts here, but then how do we keep that? And that sustainability is where we're working with the school districts now, talking to the superintendents, talking to the principals to get their buy-in, to work with the educators in the classroom. And then once we have all of this beautiful data on the preschool years and the standards and the objectives that we're working on those, we have them aligned to the kindergarten standards so that it is meaningful information for our kindergarten teachers when they get these kids that we may have had for 5 years prior to starting, but it's meaningful data. It means something to them so that not only are we getting our children school ready, we're getting the kindergartens ready for the kids that they're getting. Even if they have gaps that they haven't quite gotten school ready, we know how much growth they've made prior to entering. And then the gain will be recognized. There are the dollar invested, there's for the disadvantaged children, delivers up to a 13% annual ROI. We had a study done in Indiana where it was 4%. Again, I'll go back to what's the quality and fidelity of everyday practice that changes that ROI. We're working right now actually with Heckman on creating those community indicators that show us that what we invested as a community, which is communities wrap their arms around early childhood, just make sure we're investing correctly and making an impact by doing the correct work to get this 13% ROI. Again, I'm just going to keep hammering it. That seems like a high number and people are going, well, yeah, but it's play. if it's done correctly and measured correctly to drive the instruction and communicated effectively to our school districts and our formalized education streams, then we'll get to this 13%. It starts at birth. Like Marcia said, it involves health and nutrition as well, which we've started implementing into our trainings. Reliable childcare, that we know that our current workforce can be stronger because they have reliable, good childcare, that we can grow that generational growth. And it's developmentally focused program delivered by nurturing teachers and skilled professionals. We have to professionalize our field. We have to invest in the wages, but then we also have to have these 7 different post-secondary institutions in our area that are circling around the education piece. Working with Dr. Razor and convincing her we had to have a certified licensed teacher track option for our industry, which was there, and we put it back in place, doing a 2+2 program, working with Ivy Tech. All of these pieces that are coming together to start this will all lead to better outcomes. Again, going back to return on investment, but you have to demand the data that supports that. You can see that the highest rate of return is prenatally, which, working with our health departments, making sure that we're circling around the entire child, just not cognition, and then how investing along the continuum, at what rate you'll get returns and the economic impact. So access to effective and affordable early care and education has proven multi-generational effects, helping parents enter the workforce, gain the critical skills, and be self-sufficient while providing the children with early resources they need to succeed. This is critical to our families, our workforce, and our country. You're investing in 3 generations. We're even looking at, when we have parents, kind of looking at that crop of people to say, are you interested in childcare? Would you want to do something where you get a discounted rate for your child while you're going to school and working? Ivy Tech will bring classes to you at lunch, those types of that outside of the box thinking to do this generational approach. And then just a couple of data on men and the lower blood pressure, lower adult hypertension, and lower drug use are some of the things that we see when invested in early for life cycle benefits. And then for women, we see greater returns with more years of education, higher education rates, higher adult and employment income, and then higher parental income for women who have been invested along the continuum in.
Wonderful. Thank you, Alicia. So just so you all know, please, if you have questions along the way, drop them in the chat. We'll circle back to them at the end of the discussion, but you're going to have a lot of data, a lot of programs thrown at you. So want to make sure that while we have content experts here in the space, that we can answer those questions along the way. So please feel free to drop those in the chat. Or even if you want to come off mute and interrupt someone, I think we'd be happy to answer any of those questions. So I will now pass it off to John, and he's going to walk us through the great work that Dream Center is doing.
Yeah, thank you, Tyler. So I'm really grateful to get to be here and speak to some of the amazing things that are happening in neighborhoods across our region. Specifically, though, I'm going to be speaking to the Dream Center model happening primarily in the Jacobsville neighborhood. So Tyler, if you don't mind, jump to the next slide. Dream Center recognizes that our kids, as all of my peers here have said, are the investment for our future that we have to attend to today. The best time to plant a tree is yesterday. The next best time is today, obviously. And so as we're thinking about the health of our region, as we're thinking about the health of our neighborhoods, we have to have a hard look at our youth. And so in neighborhoods like Jacobsville, there's some visceral realities that we're thinking about. There's some really great work by the Harvard economist Raj Chetty that says that in disinvested neighborhoods, the children of those neighborhoods can earn as low as 31% lower annual wages than their peers who live in more invested and affluent neighborhoods. That staggering figure begins, as we see it in Jacobsville, with the achievement gap that often occurs because maybe a student wasn't receiving what Alicia's talking about, or a number of factors. And so I want to talk to you about Dream Center's whole child cradle to career support system. And for us, this looks like identifying the 3 areas of a child's life: the college, career, and life readiness, their household safety and stability, and the flourishing of their neighborhood. And we recognize that if we can begin to wrap around an entire child in one neighborhood at these 3 different layers, we can make sizable changes that affect their college, career, life readiness, their stability along that pathway, and maybe their likelihood that they'll come back to that same neighborhood and invest in it in their adulthood. And so we are going to get into a couple of things here, but if you don't mind, go to the next slide. Dream Center offers what we call our Cradle to Career Continuum. This is a place-based pathway of services that work for kids in the Jacobsville neighborhood. So we work exclusively in that geography because we recognize that if we can build a system that attends to the ecological needs of our students, we can begin to have seismic changes in the trends of our neighborhood. In the recent Promised Neighborhoods grant, there was some data that came out about census tracts in Jacobsville, and it was found that 64%, we have a 64% high school graduation rate in Jacobsville compared to the 83% EVSC rate, meaning that gap is pretty wide. And so what we have built here and constructed here is working with the youth of our space in our neighborhood from as early as that early learning, as Alicia was discussing. So we start with things like our Strong Starts class, which is utilizing the Touch Points curriculum by Brazelton. We are using different means to get kids connected to early learning environments in our neighborhood, high quality early learning environments. And we are ensuring that by the time our kids show up to kindergarten and are in 3rd grade, they are at grade level and they are ready to learn. We move on as those kids progress. We start thinking about how can we get them academically achieving in that early learning space. So by the time they go to 6th grade, which is the best predictor for earnings in adulthood, how can we make sure that they are mathematically sound, that they're not learning to read, but reading to learn? And so we actually put staff in the school who work with our students in Delaware Elementary School and North Junior High School. How can we help them achieve during the day? Because many of our kids on their walk to school, they're walking by a disinvested home, they're walking by drug paraphernalia, they might be waking up and not have access to meals. And our peacemakers fill the gap for understanding what's going on in the lives of our students alongside our wraparound care teams, which are going into the homes, building deep relationships with families and helping them achieve self-sufficiency in that 2-generational model. As kids progress into the middle and high school spaces, they're beginning to be exposed to things like career and college opportunities, going on college visits, learning about different career paths and what their self-awareness is saying about what they want to be as an adult. And often that looks like helping kids realize, it's awesome that you want to become a YouTuber, but tell me why that is. And we learn it's because they want to teach the world about something. And so we can help them hone that gift, that strength, that skill into an asset into adulthood. And finally, we want to walk them to college and career, because as our high school graduation rates are low, our college and post-secondary enrollment rates are considerably lower, as you could imagine. This pathway, as we sit in our neighborhood, is designed to help every kid achieve post-secondary attainment and be college, career, and life ready. It's designed to ensure that their families are safe and stable environments, so those non-academic barriers to success are eliminated, and the neighborhood begins to reflect the hope and the promise that our kids have. Can I go to the final slide here, Tyler? So I just want to share a couple of data points I think are kind of interesting. These are actually Dream Center data points. And so this is representation of, we have 3 wraparound care specialists working in our neighborhood today who are working with, at the time it was 42 families. We've grown since then, but at the time we had this sort of, it wasn't quite normal distribution, but we were measuring families on their overall independence and found that we had a number of families in each of those categories. After a year of intervention, after a year of listening and strength-based care, we were able to help that 14% of families move out of at-risk and in crisis situations into safe, stable, and thriving contexts. And so this is really important. I want to show how this has affected our academics. And so if you want to move over to the next slide, we were looking at our youth. There's a couple of different colors and numbers here I want to orient you to. These are the kids of those families. And this is actually the exact same time frame. And what we found was at the beginning of this reporting period, our kids were about 5 to 7% at or above grade level in reading and math compared to their national peers, where it was more like 39 to 42%. And after a year of investment of helping them in considerable extended learning opportunities, our peacemakers, those staff that go into the school environment and then work with kids in out of school environments, and also matching our students with mentors who could coach and motivate them, we saw that they jumped from 7.5% to 16 and 17% in reading and math. And while that velocity is not closing that gap, it is this type of sustainable growth that gets us to helping these kids who have promise, who have potential at being the future high skill workforce of tomorrow. And I believe we've got one more slide, Tyler. I don't, everyone in there, pardon me, but so I'll just share this. Our neighborhood is a beautiful neighborhood. It's where some of the coolest investment has gone in our city recently, and it shows just the potential of our kids when we get to see them running around a brand new aquatic center, when we get to see families taking walks up the North Main path. And the reason I want to highlight this is we still have a lot of work to do in the neighborhood. The overall vacancy rate of houses in our neighborhood is something like 0.03%, meaning if I want to get a house today, I've got to compete with 100 people and there's only one house for us to compete over. There's a lot of really strong challenges that we have to face. And Jacobsville is a great microcosm of the challenges of our low income neighborhoods. It's the largest residential neighborhood, and it has some of the most unique diversity measures as well. And so as we are doing our work with youth and we're doing our work with families, we're engaging with neighbors to help reverse the more macroeconomic trends of our neighborhood. And through that, we're believing that the ecosystem, along with our work, is going to lift our students and our families. So thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, John. And we'll kick it over to BJ. He's going to kind of walk us through again how this continuum continues to grow and evolve as you go from early learning to K-8, K-12, all the way through kind of that career experience and post-secondary. So BJ, I'll turn it over to you.
Perfect. Opt-in came into existence in October of 2018. And you can see kind of our 4 clusters there, but all of those we want to lead to students that are employed, enlisted, or enrolled. And that is kind of a pendulum swing from where we had been, because we now recognize all of those equally. So what opt-in's role is to educate students on the opportunities that exist. We don't push students in any direction. We just want them to understand what a career looks like. It's not getting someone a job, it's what a career looks like, and the education that's required to grow in that career. Now, this was happening in silos in the EVSC and all the schools across our region, but no one ever owned this work. And we all know that when everyone owns the work, no one owns it. So now opt-in and our team owns this work specifically within the EVSC. You can see there some of the things we put into place. All of this is based on partnerships. The work that the EVSC is doing could not take place without our industry partners, our community partners. All of the things that are happening here, and there are some great things that we'll go through here in a minute, are because of the partnerships that were established and us working with industry partners to say, okay, what are your needs? What are the needs of our students, and how can we marry those two things into an opportunity? Our first one is RAMP. RAMP is the only fully embedded work-based learning program in the country, or it was when we started it. And if there's a new one, and I'm pretty fortunate serving on the State Board of Education, I get to travel the country and see lots of programs, and there are programs that exist, but none that are embedded in an actual plant with adults, which brings about its own challenges. This was an investment, a 7-figure investment by AmeriQual. They built classrooms on site, so those students that attend RAMP go there every day. They don't go to their traditional schools. They don't go to Rice or North or Central or Boise. They go to Ramp every day. They go to Ameriqual every single day. We have 80 students enrolled. The first half of the day, we have 2 shifts of A and Q. The first half of the day is, there we go. There are 40 students working on the line, gaining true life and job skills. The other 40 students are in the classroom doing their math, science, and English, and they trade places at lunch. And the metric that's used to, this is truly serving the neediest students in our district. If there's a metric that's built where if you have an incarcerated parent, if you are on subsidized living, if you're on free or subsidized housing, if you're on free reduced lunch, all of those have a point value. So this is truly serving the neediest students in our district. And one of the things that we've not been very good at is outcome data. And we've just made a transition to that this year. But one point that I can give you is the initial cohort's attendance when they come into this program is 52%, which means these students miss about half of the year. Most all of them are not on track to graduate. And when the program ends, we're graduating about 96%, and our attendance rate is 97%. So truly like that. This is an impact that Ameriqual is making not only for themselves, but also for the region itself to just increase that talent pool in the manufacturing world. The next one. The next one is a partnership with Barry, Barry Global. Barry came to us and said, you know, we need forklift drivers. And we said, you know, we have students. So this is an example of the days of industry partners just being a consumer of talent are kind of past. This is true, like they're helping us produce this talent. So what we did was we gave Barry a space at Harrison High School, and they provided everything else. They provided the instructors, they rented the forklift, they built the curriculum, they came in and trained the students. This started in 2019 was year 1. We had 8 students enrolled. One went to Rose-Hulman and still comes back and works at Barry in the summers. And 6 of the other 7 are still employed at Barry. Year 2, we had 45 students enrolled in 2020. The world shut down. We didn't get to finish the program. They're only about a month and a half into it when it started. But 29 of those still got hired. 29 of the 45 still went on to work as, again, in probably the most difficult year employment-wise we've had, certainly in my lifetime. And then this year, we didn't allow guests into the building for the last 2 years. So this year is the first year that's back online. And we have 19 students enrolled, all of which will receive their forklift certification with a career path. Again, all taught by Barry. But this is one of the programs that Barry said that their retention rate sits right at 70% on this group of students. So those of you in that world know how high that is. But this again is an example of all that we did was give them a space and help them promote it. Barry built the program, they teach the program, and that investment in our students has kind of created the loyalty to them. Just another example. So another one, 4T, this is our partnership with Toyota and Boise High School. 4T, again, several $100,000 investment redoing a room at Boise High School. They come in, they Gabe is our instructor, which is an investment on the EVSC side. And this is teaching students, robotics. If you haven't been able to see this room, I wish I would have some video, but it is amazing. Toyota actually built a working line in there with a car that's about the size, just envision about the size of a desk. And these cars actually move along the line and the students walk along just as they would at Toyota, working on what that production looks like. They also have virtual reality painting system where they paint the doors, but it's also teaching the Toyota way, that value of how working hard and being there every day, being a great team member and being a good coworker, all of those things that are so important to the success of the students. Toyota has again They provide employees that come to Ball State 2 days a week from Princeton to be a part of that production of talent, and that is the key. School systems can't do this on our own. Industry partners, I think you're learning that it's sometimes difficult once they get to you if they don't have those skills. So us partnering while they're still in a school learning setting to build those skills within them before they get to you, I think will reap benefits for everyone. And this is another partnership that we built with Deaconess Health System. We went to Deaconess and said, okay, what are your 5 most immediate and projected needs? And you can see those 5 are listed here. That center, the dark blue circle, are the coursework that's required in K-12 for a graduation pathway. That first light blue circle, the farm tech, the PCT, the CCMA, the sterile processing and phlebotomy are all 1-year certifications with a $20 plus an hour average in those positions. And then if they want to continue on into nursing or surgical technicians, that second, the white circle is an associate's degree or a bachelor's degree or higher. So this is, again, just lays out again a career pathway for a student. It's not getting a student a job. This is the pathway. If we know that you want to do healthcare, but you're not sure exactly what, though, that coursework in the center will allow you to experience all 5 of those before you have to make a decision. So that way our students are making a very informed decision before they actually enter higher ed. Modern youth apprenticeship. This is something that I'll be very honest, I was not on board with. I'm fortunate to serve on Team Indiana with this. The first year I turned down a trip to Switzerland. So I said, hey, I don't believe in it. I don't want to go. Don't waste your money. And once I saw the process that was built with it, the system that existed, I'm now its biggest advocate. This is the Swiss model of education where 80% of their students go through a youth apprenticeship. They go into the most extensive work-based learning you can imagine to make sure that they understand what it is they're doing. And then in the youth apprenticeship, the actual industry partner becomes the learning lab. We have a career and tech center that's a $150 million facility. It's amazing, but it can only serve so many students. So if we can build these things, okay, we can provide the education piece in partnership with Ivy Tech and use their labs, but we have to get them into your facilities to actually get that hands-on learning piece of it. And you've seen something before. Early childhood is one of our focuses. Sterile processing technician, which you saw on the last one. And we've also moved into welding. The Career and Tech Center has an amazing welding program. They serve 25 students a year. And we have a wait list of about 110 that wanted to do welding that couldn't get in. So this is just an expansion of those services. We're going to, again, we partnered with Ivy Tech, and we're going to use their facilities and their instructors to offer all of these programs. But the key component to this is we need industry partners to take the students as we're training them and provide them with an internship, an apprenticeship, so to speak, to allow the students to actually experience what a day in the life is in all of these careers. And then the future state of this, the one that I skipped, like you can see all of those. I'm not going to read those to you. One that I did miss, though, that was mentioned earlier, is we actually, and it's so new that didn't make the slide deck, is our Academy of Future Educators. Same thing. This is us promoting our own industry and education. Not being self-serving, because I think everyone on this call understands how important a high quality instructor is in front of all of these classrooms that leads to the success of everything that we're talking about. So this is, we built one for education in partnership with USI, where our students will obtain 18 hours of education credit working towards their degree and have a direct admit into the School of Ed at USI at no cost to them. And then our last slide, I believe, is the metric. For so long in K-12 education, our metric has been a diploma. And we have to move away from that. Marcia mentioned skill building earlier. While the diploma is important, that diploma has to represent a set of skills. And that is what we're moving towards. So one of the things that we're going to do is track our students, all of our students that we include in signing day. We're going to track them 6, 12, and 18 months out to say, okay, or if you went directly into employment, are you still employed? Have you been promoted? Have you received any credentials? Are you working on any of your higher education? All of those things, because that the ability to give those students sustained employment is truly what success is. The diploma doesn't represent success, but the ability to sustain employment or sustain your education process is what true success looks like for a 12th grader. And that's going to become our new goal.
Thank you, BJ. So, for those of you that are still with us, just want to let you know, we do have about 6 minutes left. We may run just a couple minutes over. If you're able to stay on, great. If not, thank you for logging on this morning and appreciate your engagement. But we will now transition. I'll let Daniela kind of walk us through again how this continuum continues to build on itself.
Wonderful. No, thanks, Tyler. So just, I pulled over, so I'm safe. I'm not on the highway anymore as I present these, but yeah, I just wanted to start out with Ivy Tech as a whole. We're entering our 60th anniversary and we're launching our new strategic plan. It's fresh off the press. It's higher education at the speed of life. And I just want to touch on the 4 key metrics that we're going to be focusing on and continue to focus on. And it ties so well with everything that's being said. The first one is we continue to partner with the state of Indiana to help us achieve the 60% attainment goal. And to get to that 60% attainment as a state, Ivy Tech needs to contribute 50,000 completions annually. And we've been hyper focused on these. And you could see that on the initial slides with Marcia when you looked at an associate degree in Evansville and kind of that upward trend there. That's been really the hyper focus we've had on making sure our students are completing, whether it's a certificate, a technical certificate, or an associate's degree. And we're at 43,000 right now, so getting close to that 50,000 goal. I've obviously worked with our students to retain them so that they can complete. We want to get to 190,000 enrollment by 2025. We're at 175 right now. And it all ties to what BJ just said. The goal is to get our students, at least 60% of our students, to earn above median wage. So it's really about getting that higher wage, higher quality of life, and making that impact and that skilled workforce that the state needs. So we're very excited about this our new strategic plan, and you'll hear more about that. Yep, go to the next slide. So the way we've kind of brought that to our region and partnering our region. In the past couple of years, we've been having our leadership team meet with leadership teams of our key partners. So in the case of SABIC, we had a great meeting about a year and a half ago, looking at how could we maximize this process technology program that had been created a few years before that, but wasn't really getting a lot of traction. We weren't getting a lot of students interested in the program. We were getting maybe 4 or 5 applications a semester, which was really not hitting the mark for what SABIC needed. So we put our teams together, came up with a really great marketing campaign. SABIC invested into this marketing campaign that was very targeted and working in the schools and in providing the students the opportunity to not just enroll in this 1-year technical certificate program, but then do the first ever chemical operator internship at SABIC. So it's kind of an earn and learn strategy. They can also apply for full scholarship and have a guaranteed interview at the end to become a chemical operator, which is, we're talking about a salary of about $90,000 a year or more. So we had our first 4 students signing day a few weeks ago. Their families were there. It was an amazing day at Ivy Tech and SABIC. And again, a model that we want to continue to grow. I can tell you right now, we went from 4 applications a semester to 4 to 5 applications a week. That's how much this marketing campaign has been effective. The other group that we've been working on, if you go to the next slide, is Deaconess. We also had a similar session with the Deaconess leadership team and Ivy Tech's leadership team to identify kind of all the ways we were working together, but also the gaps, the things that we still needed to do and kind of innovate and find better ways to partner to be able to give them the workforce that they needed, not just in the health area, but Deaconess really has a lot of other needs, accounting, maintenance. It's almost a mini city within the organization. So we looked at all of those avenues and pipelines, and obviously health being the main one, and came up with ways to deepen that partnership even more. We have the highest number of achieve your degree opportunities within Deaconess employees that are earning a higher skill level so they can advance in their careers. We're doing a shared faculty agreement, so they have Deaconess nurses come and teach at Ivy Tech so we can grow and expand our nursing program. And just a number of additional opportunities to continue to grow that pipeline, and again, find ways to innovate and grow. If you go to the next slide, I'm trying to hurry up. And then finally, again, this really ties to a lot of what we've been hearing this morning, but this just got announced last Friday. So again, this is very new, but there's always this discomfort when we talk about our non-credit opportunities. So these are the courses that we do that don't fall within an academic program. And so we call them non-credit. And so it's really a misnomer, because we don't want to call something by what it's not. We want to call them by what they are. So we just renamed all of these opportunities as skills training, and we're the first institution to do that in the country. So we're hoping to try to change that name across the industry to skills training, because that's really what we're doing. We're adding skills, whether they're customized for an employer or an open enrollment skills training or a personal enrichment. You're learning things that you're going to apply and grow, whether professionally or personally. So again, we're trying to maximize the value of those skills training. And of course, they're always able to tie and crosswalk into an academic program. But again, we're just trying to really shine a light on the value that these opportunities offer to people that are aligned to that. So again, a lot of great things that go hand in hand with the great work that all of our partners, as you've heard this morning, are doing, and we're just being very proud to be part of that. So with that,
Thank you, Danielle. I think this is a great slide to transition to Christy. I think we've heard a couple times about skills and just the value of the skill in relation to the credit. So I think we'll transition to Christy, and she will kind of wrap us up. And again, if you have questions, please drop them in the chat. We want to get back to you on those questions. Of course, we know we're running out of time today, but appreciate everybody hanging on.
Thanks, Tyler. And I'll try to be brief. I know we're at the end of the time, so thanks to those of you who are still with us. USI's Adult Learner Initiative, promoting opportunities through enhanced educational pathways funded by the Lilly Endowment, is working to bridge the skills gap between our workforce and their educational needs. And one way that we're doing this is through a partnership with Lightcast and their Skillify project. Lightcast is a labor market analytics firm with over 30,000 skills in a database that employers identify as skills sought in their fields. And the database includes competencies, skills, and terms that employers use when they post job openings. And you can go to the next slide. Skillify then takes all of our syllabi from all of our courses and all of our programs and includes the course descriptions and the course learning objectives and maps them in their database to supply us with information on where our courses align. And examples here show the skills we're currently teaching in our Master of Arts in Communication, our Bachelor of Arts in Accounting and Professional Services, and our Bachelor of Science in Computer Information Systems. And then they take those versus the skills sought in the market so we can enhance our curriculum. Now, that's not to say that we aren't teaching these sought skills. It just might mean that they're not currently being reflected in our course descriptions or our course syllabi. So you can go to the next slide. So mapping our curriculum helps inform our faculty of the labor market's demand so we can adequately portray the skills that we'll acquire in each course and program. It can also help us identify gaps in our curriculum to improve our offerings, making them more dynamic and fluid. And students will be able to apply these skills and include them on their resume when applying for jobs. You can go to the next slide. And of course, this is a multi-phase process and a heavy lift. In phase one, Skillify scraped all of our data from all of our course descriptions and created a summary from those descriptions. And then from the text, skills were matched with the over 30,000 list in Lightcast database. And then in phase two, we internally collected all syllabi from each course in all programs throughout our university, and then Skillify scraped the syllabi for data from all the courses. And we're currently in phases 3 and 4, where we've reviewed skills with program directors and chairs so that they can analyze the skills for each course. And now they're refining the list, and they're meeting with their program faculty to update all of the information. So our goal with this is for higher education language and skills taught, because we certainly sometimes speak a different language, or our language doesn't always match up with the language of the market. We want to take that language and our skills taught to match the skills and the language sought after by employers, thus bridging the gap, which then means that bridging the gap is vital for our students to be best equipped to adequately represent themselves in the job market and obtain successful careers. And with that, Tyler, I'll turn it back over to you to wrap us up.
Thank you, Christy. So again, if you have questions, please get them in the chat. This will all be, this has been recorded, so we'll put this out onto the Talent EVV portion of the EREP webpage. So that's www.evvregion.com. So if you missed anything, or if you had questions and want to circle back, we'll have all of that saved. Just to wrap us up, I think this was a really great representation of what's happening across the region. I know I'm so enthused at the collaboration and the intentionality. I know the experts here in this room can share a little bit about this, that this level of collaboration is not happening everywhere. And the fact that we have 9 high school, K-12 high school, 9+, we have 7 higher ed institutions, we have a very focused pre-K ecosystem. I think all of those different levels of education working together hand in hand really allows us to think differently around educational attainment than other communities or regions might have the opportunity to. So I think it's just a great representation of how we're trying to be nimble when education is really not always the most nimble ecosystem to be working with. So any other thoughts from you all before we wrap up today? Again, thank you all for joining, and appreciate everyone's engagement.
I just would like to thank everyone for attending today. This work really is important, and this was literally a snapshot of the great work that's going on in this region. So we'll continue to keep you updated as new work evolves, and be able to share the work that we weren't able to share today that's going on. A lot of great work, and thanks to all of you for helping to make that possible.
Awesome. Thank you all and have a great week, okay?